Hello everyone, welcome back to Seed Time and Harvest, where we are learning how to grow our own food. And Jose, we're talking about amending. Tell us some more about this topic. What does the Bible have to tell us about amending our soil?
Well, we looked at the parable. Let's look at that again in our slide. And the parable was Jesus comes to this fig tree, or actually, a certain man had a fig tree. Jesus spoke the parable. And it says, a certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. And he, answering, verse 8, said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig it about and dung it. Mm-hmm. And so there was no fruit, meaning that there was some kind of deficiency in that plant. And the spiritual application is the Lord is looking for fruit in us.
Right.
And just like the fruit of the Spirit, we would like to see the fruit in our plants.
Right.
Right?
And so with the digging about it and dunging it, that's adding nutrients to the soil with the hope that the plant will produce fruit.
Correct.
All right. And with that in mind, how do we add nutrients to our soil? What are some of the things that we can add to our soil to make it more healthy?
Well, we want to add, as we visually inspect and also we tested already, we see that this plant, let's compare these plants real quick. These plants here, as we look at those two, one is a slightly yellow, even though this one is not fruiting because it's younger.
Right.
This one here is fruiting, but it seems to be a little stunted.
So this is a Japanese eggplant.
Right, a different variety.
And this is a Black Beauty eggplant.
Thank you.
And we see the colors in the leaves. This one is a lot more greener, while this one is pale. We see some browning on the tips. And the fruits are not looking like they should. They should have a darker purple color, but these are pale, and they look like they're very hard. So now we tested our soil, and we found out that we have some nutrient deficiency in our soil.
We did find out that it was missing all three, NP and K.
Right. So what are we going to do to add nutrients to these plants?
All right, so nitrogen was something that it was deficient in. And as we visually inspect it, here we have in this slide more micronutrients that we might want to look into and things that we want to examine to see if the plant is exhibiting any of these.
Okay.
And we see that it is, if we look at potassium, it tells us that it has small spots on the tips and edges, just like we see here with this.
Right, this is very obvious.
And this leaf here. We also see that there are, it is yellowing, and this is a sign of nitrogen deficiency.
With the stunted growth too, because this plant is smaller than it should be.
As well as the browning on the backside for the phosphorus deficiency. So these may vary depending on what plant you're looking at. It may show certain things but not others.
Right.
But this one is showing some signs of all three. And so as we visually look and examine at this plant, and we also saw that as we tested it, there are truly deficiencies.
Right.
Now, as you asked, what can we add for nitrogen? One of the things that we can add for nitrogen is you have your alfalfa meal, which is a good source of nitrogen.
And these things that we're going to be added are naturally occurring things. These are organic
minerals.
minerals.
We want to make sure that we don't add any synthetic fertilizers.
Why don't we want to add synthetic?
All right, let me answer that question. The reason is just as we look at the body, and if you get yourself some synthetic vitamins and minerals, the body is unable to assimilate these synthetic ones.
Correct.
So you want to get plant-based ones because the plant turns it from organic to inorganic.
Right.
So likewise with the synthetic now fertilizers, the plant is unable now to use those fertilizers. So we want to get naturally occurring amendments, and those are the ones that we're going to talk about.
Right. And so you mentioned that for nitrogen we add alfalfa meal.
Yes.
And alfalfa meal is also a good source of nitrogen and a good source of potassium. Right. Also our compost.
Right.
We can get a good supply of nitrogen from our compost as well. And here we have our homemade compost that we've been working on for a while. That's going to give us a good source of nitrogen for our plants.
Right.
Now another organic source, and you want to make sure you get this organic, is cottonseed meal. Cottonseed meal is also high in nitrogen, However, you want to make sure you get organic because cottonseed meal is one of the most highly used highly use of synthetic fertilizers
And also pesticides.
and pesticides that is common in the U.S. So you want to make sure that if you purchase cottonseed meal, make sure it says organic.
Correct.
Because if it's not organic, then possibilities are you're getting pesticides on your plants. And soybean meal is also another good source of nitrogen.
As well as we have here a worm casting.
Worm casting, right.
Now, what can you tell us about worm casting?
Well, worm casting is basically broken down produce things from worms that has a good source of nitrogen. Also, it has a 1.5, and it also has some micronutrients too that your plants will be able to benefit from, as well as microbes that you'll be adding to your soil to build the ecosystem of your plant and provide nutrients that your plant will be able to grow effectively and reproduce.
All right. So there are some sources for nitrogen. Now, what else do we have
The
to
next
add?
one is phosphorus. Some
right.
good source of phosphorus, of course, is a rock phosphate.
Right.
This is one of the hardest things to find, organic source of phosphorus, because, you know, if you find any
You want to be
regular...
careful when you're using the rock phosphate also,
Yes.
because the high yield ones, even though the number is higher, it might even burn your
It will
plant
burn.
and probably is been used some kind of chemical reaction used to
Right.
make that high-end
Right.
production on it.
Yes. Another thing with phosphate is that it's not mobile. So wherever you put it in your soil, that's where it's going to stay. So you want to make sure that you distribute it among your plants evenly.
Right.
All right?
Another source of that also is your rock dust. This may have smaller traces of this mineral,
Yes.
but also you can use to add it.
Exactly. And finally is our potassium. We can get good source of potassium from our kelp meal. And tell us about this product, Jose. This is your favorite.
All right, kelp meal it also has nitrogen. It has some traces of phosphorus, and it also has a higher amount of potassium. And this one is good for the fruiting, like we mentioned before. And you want to also make sure that you get the organic one. You want to make sure everything that you get is either OMRI listed or certified organic.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to use to amend our eggplant.
Eggplant.
Because we did see that it had deficiencies in those areas.
Right.
Now, Sharice, also I want to make mention, the worm casting and the compost also have other trace minerals in them. Now, we could add C90. Let me show the bag. We could also add C90. Now, this one has 90 minerals in it, but we don't want to overwhelm you with the prices, as well as the rock dust, which also has very many trace minerals. And these are the ones that are not as, well, I wouldn't even say as significant, but these are not mentioned as often.
But we still need it because with the C90, as we mentioned before, 90% of the minerals that are in our body are also in the seawater. While you won't drink seawater, if you don't want to purchase this, you can go and you can get some seawater and to use that to water your plants.
True.
So that your body can get the same minerals.
Right. If you live by the sea, there's a more economic way to get that.
Yes, to get your C90. All right, so we're just going to amend our eggplant.
All right, so we're going to use the rock phosphate for our phosphorus. We're going to use the kelp meal for our potassium, and then we're going to use the compost and the worm cast for nitrogen.
And of course, all your organic fertilizers are slow-release fertilizers. So you don't look for results in 1 or 2 days, unlike your regular synthetic amendments.
Let's put it over here so everybody can see what's going on.
So we're going to add some worm casting. And of course, you want to make sure, because your plants are consistently using up the nutrients in your soil, so you want to make sure you feed your plants regular. We would recommend at least every 3 or 4 months depending on if you have a heavy feeder, like eggplants are heavy feeders, cucumbers are heavy feeders. So know your plant, know what your plant needs, and make sure you feed your plant so that the roots will be able to take up the nutrients that it needs to make sure you have a healthy plant.
Now this eggplant we did feed when we first planted it. We feed all our plants. But as you can see, the
nutrients
were
depleted
used
over
up
time.
because of the amount of rain that we get in Florida.
Exactly.
And so they deplete very quickly.
And that's another thing too. It depends on your watering habit. If your plants are in a container, then you're going to have to feed them a lot more often than if they're in the ground, because of course, as you water, the nutrients is going to be leaching out of your soil.
Right.
Especially with compost. Compost provides a good source of nutrients that is readily available. But as you water, your nutrients gets leached out of the soil, so you have to replenish your nutrients
and you know,
over time.
That brings me to another point, and that is peat moss. Peat moss is a great way for you to retain your nutrients. So this could be something that you add as well. It is an organic matter as well, so it has your microbes in it as well.
Right.
So this would be something that you may want to add. Now we're just giving you extra things. We're not saying that this is what you need. Right now we're sticking to the basics, the NPK, and that's what we tested for, and that's what we're going to add. So show us, Cherise, how to do that.
Well, 2 ways you can do this. Of course, well, 3 ways. And originally, when you start your garden, you want to make sure that you put all your nutrients in your soil over time. And since these are slow release, that is better, so that when you're ready to plant your seeds, the nutrients will be readily available for your roots to absorb them and help your plants to grow big and strong. Now, you have some minerals such as alfalfa, which you do not put directly around your roots because it will burn your roots and it will cause some problems. So if they are safe to go around the roots, you can dig around your plant, pour in the nutrients, and just refill the dirt so that it will be readily available.
Either way, we don't want to dig too deep into the root system because we don't want to disturb the microbes.
Right.
So we want to leave it more towards the top layer of the topsoil.
And over time, your nutrients will work down into your soil. As you water, the nutrients will work down. So we don't have to worry about burning our roots or damaging anything. We just put it in and allow nature to do its work and feed our plants.
And that would be by watering and maintaining your eggplant.
Yes.
And that's how you amend your eggplant. When you see that it has deficiencies, and that would be how you would dung it and dig it.
And there we have it.
So let us know if you have any questions. You can email us at seedtimeandharvest. And you can find us on the webpage, Prophesy Again. And I hope you are enjoying what we've been showing you. Now, next week, we will make a transition. We're going to talk about the tools that are needed in the garden.
Right.
So we're going to make a transition to go into the garden now. We want to show you how to till the ground and do various things in your garden. So stay tuned. I hope you are ready for that, and happy planting.
Happy planting, everyone.